What's up, fellas? In this video, I'm going to be talking about why has the right fractured and what can we do about it. It's pretty crazy. Post 2020, it seems like the right has split quite a bit. There's no super clear leader to rally behind. I posted a poll in my Instagram page in my story, and I asked, are you voting for DeSantis, Trump, Kanye, or are you not voting? And the results came out pretty even. Like, it was 25% for all four. So it was shocking to me how no one really knows who to rally behind. And we're kind of in this weird era where everything is decentralized. There's no great, clear leaders. There's a lot of problems with all the different people, like Trump. There's a lot of problems with him. There's a lot of problems with DeSantis. And we kind of live in an era similar to the era of the judges in the Bible. If you've read the book of the Judges, it's basically this era before the monarchy, before King David, King Saul, where there was no particularly good leader. And every so often a judge would come along who would unite all the people together and would be a great leader. But the judges got worse and worse over time. There was judges like Deborah, Samson, Gideon, and they just kind of gradually get worse and worse over time and more disconnected from God. What happened was Joshua conquered the Holy Land, essentially, but they didn't root out all the Canaanites. And so there's still a lot of pagan idol worship going on everywhere. And a lot of the Israelites became corrupted by it because they didn't fully root it out and they just fell away from God. And so, that's kind of the era that we live in now, is that there's no great king to rally behind. There's no super awesome leader in politics. I think we should care about politics in so much as we can affect it. Like, we should follow it to some degree, but we should be mostly focused on the local. But I think the reason why the right has split so much is because the right has changed. The Overton's window has been shifted. If you're familiar with that term, the Overton's window is basically the realm, like what are the acceptable ideas that you can talk about. For example, no one really talked about China as being a threat to the US before Donald Trump called out China. And there's been a series of figures who have emerged over the past decade or so who have become super viral on the internet and have kind of shifted the conversation, have pushed the Overton's window on the right. And so the right has changed a lot in the past decade because of these figures and the internet. For example, Jordan Peterson, 2015, 2016, he kind of paved the way for a kind of a Christian revival. A lot of people have converted or reverted because of Jordan Peterson. I personally was very affected by his biblical series on Genesis, which I'd highly recommend. I'll link it down below. And he also kind of talked about history with the totalitarian systems, 𝚙𝚘𝚜𝚝 and the Gulag Archipelago. He also kind of popularized symbolism. So Jordan Peterson shifted the Overton's window for men and for people on the right in general. Donald Trump also did the same thing. He broke out of the paradigm of Republican versus Democrats and kind of created his own movement where it was focused on nationalism. He brought up issues like the opioid crisis, China. He brought up issues like the border being open and things like that. And he was successful to some degree or another, but he shifted things quite a bit. I know a lot of people were in favor of Ted Cruz at the beginning, but then they became Donald Trump supporters. Now I feel like a lot of people have become even more far right than Donald Trump, and they view him as being bad because he supports gay marriage. So he's a very imperfect person. Another figure would be Alex Jones. He was considered so crazy, but he got so much attention during between 2016 and 2020 that he brought about a lot of ideas to people, which I think are true. Like he talked about transhumanism, human-animal hybrids. He talked about Agenda 2030. He talked about how there is people who want to form a one-world government. That is like their goal. The World Economic Forum. A lot of people did not know about this kind of stuff before Alex Jones kind of brought it to the table and started talking about it. He shifted the Overton's window. Even the frogs gay thing turned out to be true. You can look it up. Just look up atrazine frogs, Alex Jones. And so I think these really controversial people who get a lot of hate also shifted the right, and which has led to it fracturing. Another person is Andrew Tate, who has kind of brought up anti-feminism to more of the secular sphere, and he's brought up a lot of points about gender dynamics, male and female, masculinity. He's definitely said a lot of bad things also, but I think he's also shifted the conversation. And most recently, Kanye and Nick Fuentes talking about you-know-who and talking about America and Israel and their relationship together, talking about those things. I think it was important to bring up because people don't really talk about it here in America. As a traditional Catholic, it has been a topic for centuries. Many of the church fathers talked about this particular group of people. And now a lot of people are having these conversations, which was not happening before Kanye and Nick Fuentes. So because of all these people pushing the boundaries more and more over time, the right has kind of split, and there's kind of different groups out there. There's the neoconservatives, who are like the people who really love watching Daily Wire. A lot of the baby boomers who watch Fox News, I kind of group them together. These are the types of people who would probably go for DeSantis. And then there is the Trumpers who love Trump, and they think that they're like very, very, very supportive of Trump. There's also the neo-pagan guys who read Nietzsche, and they're anti-Christianity, and they're ethno-nationalists. They want to create like another Rome or an ethno-state. There's those people. And then there's the Christians, which obviously is pretty broad. There's the Catholics, the Protestants, the Orthodox, and then within each of those groups, there's the conservative ones and the liberal ones. So I think the Christians have gained some ground for sure. The neo-pagans have gained some ground. Even the Muslims are making inroads into the West because there's kind of this vacuum. Liberalism is crumbling. As liberalism kind of crumbles down, there's a vacuum, and people are like trying to fill the vacuum with different things. Islam, neo-paganism, Catholicism, Protestantism, all these different things are filling the void of this secular culture that is collapsing and falling down. So essentially, I think the trend is going to continue. These neocon baby boomers are going to probably die off. And the Daily Wire, they do some good, but they tend to be pretty reactionary in my view. Like they do a lot of good overall, but they're not Christian. They're not explicitly like Catholic. Although I know Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles do some good work. But I think this explains why the right has fractured so much and why there's no kind of unified thing. I think it's a lot of people are searching for the truth, and they are being shifted throughout the years because of all these figures. And I don't know, it seems like we live in this era of the judges. And so what does it mean for us, I'm a traditional Catholic, so obviously I can't like fully support someone like Donald Trump who supports gay marriage. But if Donald Trump gets elected to be the nominee going against Joe Biden, I'd probably vote for him, If Joe Biden was going against Joseph Stalin, who was reincarnated, then I would vote for Joe Biden. And obviously voting doesn't really matter too much, but it still matters to some degree. And the people who are not voting, it doesn't cost that much effort. And sure, you can be really disappointed and blackpilled about the whole democracy system, the Dominion voting machines, and how it's all rigged. But it doesn't really cost you that much effort, and you can still vote on local issues, which probably can't be manipulated as easily. So I'd say we should still vote for the best and the least evil candidates within the current system. We don't have the makings for like a great new system yet because the populace is not converted yet. So until then, we have to kind of just work with the best we got. similar to the era of judges. And that's kind of what the Israelites had to deal with back then. Essentially, the judges were sinful, fallen leaders, but God still used them as his instruments in various ways. So ultimately, God is in control. So might as well just try to do the best we can with the leaders we got. And obviously, we should consider ourselves in the future trying to step up into leadership positions if we have a calling to do so. And we should pray and offer penance to God that he'll give us a good leaders who will fight for godly cause. You know, Roe versus Wade was overturned because of Donald Trump, even despite all the badness of him. So, you know, we just got to work with what we got. And that's kind of my philosophy for why everything is just fractured apart. There's a lot of confusion. Like, no one really knows what's going on. And hopefully Christianity, Catholicism will win out in the end and become dominant. I think that's what's got to happen. You know, I think it's probably a good thing that the right is fracturing up, because that means that possibly a third option could emerge from the ruins of the Republicans and the right wing. You know, if we stand for Catholic values, probably the biggest thing that I would say is that 50% of the Catholics within America are Mexicans. So whatever kind of new party or Catholic coalition forms, it has to incorporate the Catholic Mexicans, because that's where the numbers of Catholics are. And I think things are there's going to be a new kind of era, new parties, new alliances that form. And the Donald Trump phenomenon is an era for sure, but it's like now I don't even know if Trump's going to even beat DeSantis. No one really knows what's going to happen in 2024. But all I know for certain is that things are kind of crumbling apart, and everyone's just like, it's kind of more of a chaotic, factional thing. So I think the opportunity is ripe for Catholics to win some ground and win some converts in the public space, in the public sphere, as best as we can. That's the end goal, is to reconvert America, to reconvert Europe, and to, you know, Christian futurism. I do like that message from Nick Fuentes, where he's looking forward into the future, Christendom into the 22nd and 23rd centuries. So I hope you guys got some value out of this. This is my opinion. Please, if you disagree, leave a comment. I'd like to hear what you have to say. I'm always changing my mind all the time. So leave me some feedback, and I'll see you guys in the next one.